This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome on into the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Playing in the World Series sucks, actually. It's really bad. New York Yankees are down 0 games to 2. They have no wins. The Dodgers have 2 wins. Yankees were 1 out away from getting a win. But at least they had the common courtesy to not get 1 strike away from getting a win, as they did in Game 3 of the championship series in Cleveland. That was uniquely painful. So was this, but not quite as painful, or maybe more painful because it was the World Series and an unqualified pitcher was on the mound for the first time in a month. I'm actually not sure. But either way, Monday, Game 3, last chance to salvage the World Series. Give yourselves a shot. Give yourselves a chance. This is, as you heard, Thomas Carannante, exactly the same as the 1996 World Series. Except for the first couple of games were on the road instead of at home, and they weren't facing Greg Maddux and John Smoltz. They didn't get bashed. They just gave the games away. But other than that, identical. Also, the bench is Jose Trevino and Trent Grisham and Jason Dominguez instead of Cecil Fielder and Tim Raines and Darryl Strawberry. But again, Wade Boggs. I mean, these are pretty much apples and oranges. Like, you look at the 96 roster and this year's roster and the situations, and it's like, whoa, am I looking in a freaking mirror? I'm seeing double over here. It's crazy. Either way, the Yankees lost a brilliant start from Garrett Cole, who threw only 88 pitches. What's the deal with that? Then they almost came back in the 9th inning of Game 2, and I actually wanted them to not take the lead or tie, and in fact, just lose, because I was like, man, it's almost more valuable to keep the pressure on for Game 3 and sow some seeds of doubt in the Dodgers' mind, rather than tie or take the lead and blow it in the bottom of the 9th, because that's how pessimistic I am after Game 1. But either way, is it possible for the Yankees to come back? Absolutely. Totally possible. Teams come back from 2-0 down. Not in the World Series as much as I thought they did. Last time it happened was 1996. But it does happen. It's not outrageous. If you were up 2-0, you'd be worried about blowing it, especially if you were going on the road for 3-4-5. But some things need to change. And those changes will not include Shohei Ohtani, who is in the lineup even after a subluxation of his left shoulder towards the end of Game 2, when we were like, oh my God, did he popped his shoulder out? Did he just Julius Randle that thing? Did he fracture his wrist? Big man fall down hard. You know, what happened here? Well, it turns out he's not going to miss any time at all, because that's what kind of series it is. What does Aaron Boone need to do to turn the tide in Game 3? How would you change the lineup? How's he going to change the lineup? Plus the Aaron Judge talk. We don't want to do it, but we have to. We just have to, because he's getting worse again. Thomas Carannante, thank you for joining me on the show. Ultimately, I guess you'd rather win the American League than lose the American League, but we're in a fun spot here, aren't we?
We sure are. I woke up with a headache today. I don't know if that means that I'm exercising all of the demons before Game 3, or if it's a bad omen for what's going to happen in Game 3. So, yeah. Hang on, folks. Might have some technical difficulties. Are we good? Okay. I think we're good. Sorry, guys. Mic issue. But, yeah, I don't know if it's exercising demons before Game 3 here, or if it's what's to come. I'm kind of not angry about any of this, because it was all problems we talked about in leading up to the World Series. What did we say leading into the World Series? What did we say? We had multiple episodes about this. We wrote about it all over yanksgoyard.com. By the way, thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Head on over to the website. We'll remind you again at the end. But the two things that were most crucial for the Yankees to take the World Series against the Dodgers were limiting miscues of all kinds, whether it was base running, whether it was situational hitting, whether it was defensive, and it was Aaron Boone not getting in the way of what this team is capable of. And what has happened in the first 2 games? What happened in the first game? 3 defensive miscues that is eventually led to runs.
Yep.
And Aaron Boone stepping on this team, shooting this team in the foot. So,
and we're going to scream about it. And Aaron Boone certainly made a mistake, and there's no getting around Aaron Boone making a mistake. But if you're ignoring the first 9 innings and the defensive miscues and what we said, this game should
Yeah.
have even gone to extras. Like,
Yep.
silver platter for Aaron Boone to make a big mistake, and he was 1 out away from not making a mistake, and it turned out he made a mistake. Obviously, blame pie, Aaron Boone, eat your pie. But if they had won that game, they would have stolen it because poor performance, it's a 2-0 win. If they don't make not 1 but 2 ridiculous gaffes to send runners to third who didn't deserve to be on third base, and that doesn't even include Alex Verdugo falling over and kicking a ball around in the first inning to put Freddie Freeman, who's not running, on third base. That guy didn't score. The other 2 did in ways that fallacy of the predetermined outcome, I know, but quite literally scored on balls that wouldn't have scored them otherwise without the Yankees malfeasance. So you would have gotten away with one if you'd won, but I think the right team won game 1. It just hurt.
Yes, agreed. So that's where the problem comes in, because we know what we're dealing with at this point in terms of like underperformance and struggles, right? Aaron Judge is not there. Jazz Chisholm is kind of there, but not really. Anthony Volpe, there-ish, but I don't know if we're going to rely on him to get a hit with the bases loaded in game 2 of the World Series, and we didn't. So that was that. Bottom of the lineup, Alex Verdugo, Austin Wells, really bad. So we knew all of those issues, and we talked about the runs per game in the DS and the CS. 4.4 or 3 or whatever it was just isn't enough. Not going to be enough against a team like the Dodgers. And guess what? If that's the way your offense is going to perform, because we know at this point that there's not going to be a miraculous turnaround of sorts, there can't be hiccups elsewhere, especially when avoidable. Defense doing what they did was something that we have talked about all year as being a problem and being a potential death knell when every inning and every pitch matters. And that's where it came to haunt them. And then you talk about Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone's job is to manage the New York Yankees. Did you know that? Pretty simple job title, pretty simple set of responsibilities. But everyone, not everyone, I shouldn't say, who am I talking about? The imaginary Twitter people who piss me off. People seem to think that there is not as much managerial importance when the postseason arrives than there actually is, because a manager's job is to navigate a situation regardless of how good or bad it is. Aaron Boone seems to operate on a wavelength I don't even know exists, because some days it feels like he's just looking through his easy binder and is like, great, steps 1 through 5 to get me to the end of the game. That's easy enough. Okay, that'll get done. And then there are days where he's meddling too much and he is being aggressive, but not in a manner where fans believe he should be aggressive. And that's where it came in game 1 of the World Series. You have Garrett Cole at 88 pitches in the 6th inning. He is your best pitcher by far. He was carving up the Dodgers lineup. The inning prior, he had gotten out of a jam with a leadoff double and didn't allow the run to score. He preserved the lead. And then first sign of trouble in the 6th inning, a single off the bat of Teoscar Hernandez, and Aaron Boone comes and takes him out of the game. So you have your starting pitcher who's cruising and gave up a very reasonable hit to a really good hitter who's been, one of the Dodgers' unlikely kickstarters and catalysts all year, going into the bottom part of the lineup, and you're not, and that's where you're drawing the line for your $320 million ace. It doesn't make any sense. And if you're looking at preserving the bullpen and making sure you're getting as much run out of the guys that you heading into the season, this is where I'm losing my train of thought, because this is how upset it makes me. The Yankees' lone advantage in this World Series was a greater starting rotation on paper. In reality, probably not, but on paper, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Luis Gil is better than Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is pitching in a postseason for the first time in his career, Walker Buehler, who has had an insane up and down for the last 3-4 years, and Jack Flaherty, who has been an absolute hit or miss in these playoffs and bullpen game. So the Dodgers, in essence, have, I'd say, 1.5 good starters on this staff when you average all the pitchers' performances out. in terms of, facing the best lineup in the league. And then they have a bullpen that is, you want to talk about overwork. They've been throwing bullpen games all this postseason. What if the Yankees did that for one game? They would lose the next 3. So the one Yankees advantage was starter length and starter pedigree, right? Even though Clark Schmidt and Luis Gil aren't exactly the most experienced, they have shown an ability to pitch in high leverage situations multiple times this year and now in the playoffs. So to take Garrett Cole out in the 6th when he had at least one more inning in him, when that at least could have bridged the gap to Tommy Kahnle and Luke Weaver, fairly stress-free, without having to use Clay Holmes, without having to have this game get messy and go into extras. In a game where Garrett Cole was at 88 pitches in the 6th inning, the Yankees ended up using 5 additional pitchers. 5 additional pitchers. And you're sitting there, you as the fan, and you're like, this isn't right. This is wrong. None of this feels right. And then Derek Jeter in the postgame said, well, this pretty much torpedoes the whole series, right? You have your best pitcher on the mound who has proven more than capable of taking care of business. And I think the best point out there, I think it was I don't know if it was Jeter or if it was a random exec. I was reading so much to try and parse through all this, but also Jeff Nelson made a number of good points. But when you're in the World Series and you're faced with 2 moves, just for example, and one of them, nobody is going to question if you make it, and the other one, will be an absolute disaster if it blows up in your face. Which decision are you making? Aaron Boone, on 2 separate occasions, made the latter. He made the choice that if this blows up in my face, it's absolutely my fault, and there is no question. There is no recourse outside of me saying, I thought it was the good lane. Famous line from Aaron Boone. So when he took out Garrett Cole, that decision better have been right, and it was not, because Clay Holmes came in, looked awful, and then he had to go to Tommy Kahnle 1 out earlier than he would have wanted to, which then put further strain on the bullpen. And then in extras, instead of going to Tim Hill, who was having a very good postseason, who, you know what, there is an argument. A lot of people were talking, hey, Tim Hill is not swing and miss. They couldn't afford to have a ball put in play there. You're facing Shohei Ohtani, who puts the ball in play. Probably wasn't the best matchup. But the alternative, but the alternative was Nestor Cortez, who hasn't pitched in 38 days. And that was Aaron Boone's choice. And that was, on paper, the one choice that was going to have everybody at home go, Or the broadcast go, hey, here comes Nestor Cortez out of the bullpen, hasn't thrown in 38 days. And random people who had never watched baseball before, who were just watching the Yankees-Dodgers World Series, were like, what? Why are they doing that? So that's what it comes down to. The little things, and the manager who's supposed to be fixing the crisis in the moment have failed. You gave away a game 1 that you were stealing. You relied on Carlos Rodon in game 2 to give you length. He has rarely ever responded to pressure since signing that contract. Awful recipe all around. It is, I don't see a win tonight. That's all I'm saying.
Carlos Rodon is a blister. Carlos Rodon is a blister also. Blister man.
Give a fuck.
Yeah, it's another one. I mean, look, it just feels a lot like, people comparing this to the 1996 World Series. Okay, have a field day. It feels to me like the 2018 ALDS over here in the World Series. Like, you get yourself hyped up for the matchup, and you're like, Red Sox, I mean, they won 108 games this year, but we match up well in XYZ area. If Judge and Sanchez, whatever, you talk yourself into a pretzel. And then push comes to shove, they have a better manager. They have JD Martinez, and you have Giancarlo Stanton. JD Martinez outperformed Stanton in that series. Their stars were stars. Yours were not. They pummeled you in game 3. And you just left that series being like, so we're very good, but we're worse than the team we're chasing. Got it. That's kind of how I feel here. On paper, I'll take the Yankees rotation over what the Dodgers have. On paper, the Dodgers bullpen, they've been throwing bullpen games in game 4. They should be tired, but they take to the mound in game 1, and it's Brusdar Graterol, fresh off injury, throwing 99. Can't touch him. Blake Trinan looks fantastic. Looked a little less fantastic in game 2. And also, obviously, did give up a manufactured run in game 1. But you watch Trinan, and you're like, yep, there's that swing and miss. Remember all summer when we were talking about how the Yankees bullpen doesn't have swing and miss? And then we forgot about that because Luke Weaver emerged and he was great. Well, now they don't have swing and miss. Nobody throws 99. Clay Holmes can get to the upper 90s, but he came in game 1 and looked worse than he has even in the Guardians game. That's the worst I've seen Clay Holmes look in weeks since the Rangers walk-off. That was awful. He got his butt saved. There was an incredible Jazz Chisholm play in there, just short hop picking one out of nowhere. Again, they were going to steal that game until they weren't. They didn't deserve to win that game. We've been waiting for the Gleyber Torres killer misplay all October long. There it was.
Finally got it.
Laying a throw in from Juan Soto, treating it as casually as you possibly can, forgetting that every part of every play in every World Series game and inning matters. He took that part of the play off. You know, what's the worst that could happen? This isn't it's a dead ball. No one's moving anywhere. Oh, wait, I dropped the ball and it's rolling around. Juan Soto turned a single or at least a double into a triple earlier in the game. That scored a run on a sac fly. That's a garden variety misplay. That's just it's a moderate.
He's not a good right fielder.
He's not a good right fielder. Dodger Stadium scary. He was trying to cut it off, took a bad angle. Like, that's a normal bad misplay, but I got to mention it because a run scored because of it. But the Gleyber play is unconscionable. But yeah, you look at the Dodgers bullpen, and Alex Vesia is a huge, return. The Dodgers have flamethrowers come into the bullpen. The Yankees have Tommy Kahnle throwing 56 straight changeups. And you know who wasn't fooled by the 53rd or whatever? Shohei Ohtani, who came up and just banged it off the wall. And it's a miracle it didn't even go further because 56 changeups is not a changeup. It's a slow-moving fastball. It's kind of like a screwball. I love Tommy Kahnle. I trust him. But that's like the second most trustworthy guy in your bullpen right now. Every other bullpen's got like real horses. We got to the Guardians horses. Good job by us. But there's nobody coming out of the Yankees bullpen that's like, game over. This guy throws 100 with a wipeout slider. The Dodgers have like 4 of those guys. And if they're tired, they weren't showing it. Jack Flaherty and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I mean, 2 guys that I don't really want on the Yankees. I'm not kicking myself over not acquiring Jack Flaherty. I'm not losing my mind over not paying Yoshinobu Yamamoto $350 million. But at the same time, if we weren't so high on our own supply for the Yankees going to the World Series, this would have been, we've done this conversation on a million podcasts before. Oh, look, it's the guy the Yankees could have traded for that they backed out on a trade for and is now destroying them. Oh, look, it's the guy who played the Yankees in free agency and went somewhere else because Shohei Ohtani deferred a bunch of money. And he just pretended he wanted to be a Yankee so he could be a Dodger, kicking our ass in game 2. Isn't that interesting? It's not former Yankees, but it's, of course, people the Yankees were connected to, had an opportunity to acquire, didn't. And here they are coming out on top because those guys never come out on bottom. For the first time all postseason long, this World Series feels like the Aaron Boone Yankees. And I don't know if that's because Aaron Boone beefed game 1 so hard, but it really is like, oh, it hadn't felt familiar until October 25th, and now it does. So chance they win tonight, chance they make it interesting.
Sure.
But as soon as you lose that game 1 and lose that game 1 the way that you lost that game 1, it's no longer the like, oof, this is a coin flip series. The this is a coin flip predictions were all predicated on the Yankees being different than the 2017 to 2023 Yankees. These current Yankees look like those old ones, and those ones can't hold a candle to even a Dodgers team that has a hobbled Freddie Freeman and a bottom of the lineup that isn't going to blow your mind. It's, Will Smith and Gavin Lux and Miguel Rojas, but even Gavin Lux, Jake Cousins can't throw a strike to him in the biggest at-bat of the game before the big guns come up. Like, hey, whoever needs to execute just didn't. And then in game 2, the bullpen held it down after Rodon came out. The Yankees rallied until they didn't. Again, it just feels like a Yankee game. They're not getting steamrolled. They're not getting outclassed. There was a weird Jeff Passan column about how, it's doom for the Yankees and the Dodgers are exposing all of their flaws, and that's one way to take it. But for me, it just feels like all of the other previous Yankees postseason series. They can no longer out-talent the Dodgers. The big money Dodgers are playing more cohesive baseball than they are. I don't know if it's exposed their flaws or just that they're not getting a single break. They're going right up to the edge of being successful and then failing. Mm-hmm. They're unable to complete the assignment of battling back against, these are 2 starting pitchers who've struggled in large chunks of the year, especially recently. But when it's nut cutting time, when it's like, hey, my time is up. I have to beat the Yankees in the World Series or my season is dangerously close to being over. They dominate. They dominated us. We haven't gotten a performance like that ever. post Joe Girardi. Can you think of a time when the Yankees, like since AJ Burnett in 2009, needed a maligned player to step up, and then they just did, and then they stepped up? I mean, David Cone completely washed in 2000 with like a 6 ERA, got called in by Joe Torre to get peak Mike Piazza out in the middle of Game 5 of the World Series. You know what? He did it. Aaron Boone brings in Nestor Cortez. It's the same kind of move. If it doesn't work, you're going to get lambasted. If it does work, you're going to get praised. People are going to talk about how you showed faith in an arm that helped carry you there, and you put your trust in someone who worked hard to get back for this series. Nestor Cortez throws 2 meatballs on 2 pitches. One of them is popped out by Shohei Ohtani. One of them is hit 450 feet by Freddie Freeman. And in that moment, you can't help but be like, yeah, no, it just ain't the same. They're just they're close, but they're not good enough. They're not as good as this Dodgers team. There might have been another team in the American League that could have given this Dodgers team a fright. I don't think there was, but it doesn't seem like it's us. And if they win, I'll eat my words if they win games 3, 4, and 5. And then we get to send it back to Los Angeles and have some really stressful evenings. But they could win tonight. This could easily be a gentleman's sweep where they lose in 5, but I don't know what people are talking about when they're like, well, the comeback begins now. I mean, theoretically, if you lose 2 games at the margins and they're really like, they're that tight, but you just don't execute 8 different times and then the other team wins by a very small amount. Theoretically it could turn around, but haven't seen the rotation come to play in Garrett Cole's stead. Haven't seen the bullpen step up when needed. They did a good job holding the fort in Game 2, but certainly not in Game 1 when they could have put their stamp on this one. And haven't seen the creativity work, and haven't seen the lineup produce. And outside Giancarlo Stanton, and that's our captain's fault. Haven't really seen anything that makes me think like, oh, this is going to turn on a dime. Of course, that often happens, as nervous Dodger fans will tell me, when you least expect it. But that it would have to be that. It would have to be none of this. You couldn't have seen this coming, and it did. Which, much like tripping into the playoffs with 88 wins and making a World Series run, does not seem to happen to these New York Yankees.
Exactly. I mean, after that Game 1 loss, I was like, you're right. Like, this is more of the same with Aaron Boone. You look at, forget about the 2018 DS, like, that was just the Yankees not showing up. And was that no, that wasn't the series Luis Severino forgot the start time, was it?
Oh,
that
yes.
Was
That
was okay.
Oh,
so the Yankees are just never prepared under any circumstance. But you look at the 2019 CS, they lose that Game 2 in extras. And I understand that it's hard to win 2 games on the road in the ALCS, but they had it. They had it, and they let it slip away, and then they lost the next 2 at home, and then that really dictated everything. Like, we could talk about the DJ LeMahieu homer and followed by the Jose Altuve homer, but this game was lost after J.A. blew it in extras. 2020, they blow that game by trying to get cute with Davey Garcia and J.A. You knew the series was over after that. I know they kept it close, but you never at any point felt like that was the right one. 2021, that was just a bad team. And then you knew Garrett Cole pitching at Fenway would not work, especially when he was not 100%. And then you look at 2022, when both of those games in the CS in Houston were within reach, and they lose 4-2 and don't do anything offensively. And they lose 3-2 and they don't do anything offensively. And you say, well, those were the chances. The door was open. The opportunity was there. And you let it slip away, and it's a momentum killer. So, like, we look back, you see all these fans talking about 96, and it was like, yeah, I mean, that team was hungry. It was full of depth. It had a lot of like gritty experience and an unwillingness to die and a willingness to seize the moment. And this team just doesn't have that, and they've never had it, because it's the same core of players since Aaron Boone took over in 2018. Yes, changes have been made. Roster turnover happens every year, but this group collectively has not come through in a moment where you've needed them to come through. And you look at Game 1 being the perfect example of that, because it was the Dodgers giving you a lane with Jack Flaherty starting. The Dodgers were essentially, by saying Jack Flaherty was starting Game 1 of the World Series, they said, hey, we are planning for a 7-game World Series. because this is going to set up our pitching staff the absolute best it could for a 7-game World Series. And the Yankees said, well, we're going to pitch our best fucking starters right at the beginning because we want to take these games in LA. So that was the first right move that they made. But then every move in between lacks any sort of direction, any sort of gumption. And that's the problem. So heading into tonight, it's not going to be the case, but it should be the case. But Aaron Boone's job should be on the line. And it should start with a lineup change. And I don't know what that looks like, although I did suggest one today. And it starts with reading the pitching staff better. Like, he's usually decent at reading the pitching staff when things are going really wrong, but he's really not good at letting the hot hand go when it comes to starters. I think we commended him a lot in the DS and the CS for pushing the right bullpen buttons.
CS great. Like, CS managed this undermanned, stressed out bullpen and pitching staff with Louis Steele starting game 4 to game 4 and 5 wins, and they kept game 5 deadlocked. Kudos to Aaron Boone. I was all ready to have a conversation about how Boone had secured his managerial role for next year, and he rightly secured it. He should be back, and he's finally proving that he can roll. Like, he looked like the more experienced manager than both Stephen Vogt and Matt Quatraro, and he was, and that's great. But in this series, I don't know what possesses you. And even if he had accidentally got through the 10th with Nestor Cortez and Freddie Freeman pops out and it's sort of a miracle, it doesn't mean the process was correct. It just means that you might be a team of destiny and everything worked out. Removing Garrett Cole was still the more nonsensical move, in my opinion. I'm sick of people just thinking, like, congrats if you are calm enough watching a game to think that, oh, Tim Hill's got this. First and second, one out for Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. Yeah, it would have been over with Tim Hill. Like, Tim Hill gave up 3 hits and 4 batters to the Guardians in game 1 of the CS and committed interference on the base paths. I love Tim Hill as much as anybody. But just to be like, acting like Tim Hill's Mariano Rivera, give me a break. Like, there's a chance that Shohei Ohtani hits his first pitch 480 feet. That said, that's still the move that you make because you have to live and die with the guy who's been doing it all year in those scenarios. Nestor Cortez argued his way onto the roster. I'm glad he did. It was obvious within one pitch that they had to put him on the roster. They don't have a viable alternative unless you're as much of a Cody Poteet guy as I am. But I'd put unhealthy Nestor on the roster. I get it. You need extra pitchers. He's there as a last resort, essentially, but then he came in for the biggest out of the entire season, and it might well be the last pitch he throws as a New York Yankee, which is just insane. I mean, while we're talking lineup changes, just have to note that during this show, it came out that Jose Trevino is starting tonight's game in what must be a misguided attempt to bait Shohei Ohtani into trying to steal more bases and injuring himself again. Jose Trevino is catching. No word yet on other lineup changes if those lineup changes do not involve shifting Aaron Judge down in the order, which Aaron Judge should implore his manager to do himself. He should be a captain and say, Skip, I'll hit 5th today. That's all we got so far. And I would wager to say that switching in Jose Trevino for Austin Wells is not enough.
No, that's not even a decision. I don't even know what that accomplishes. You call on Trevino to get a hit, and I understand getting a hit in that situation is very hard, but when you guess the exact pitch that's coming and you're right on top of it and you pop out to left field, like I don't know.
I mean, you hit it high enough that you could edit that into a home run. Like, you could theoretically splice footage from other home runs and make it look like he hit it hard enough that you could reasonably make AI that turns it into a grand slam. But no, it was a pop out to medium depth. You know what the pitch in that inning too? I mean, there were 2 of them to Anthony Volpe. All you got to do is go to right center or right field, line drive single. You've been doing it all postseason long. First pitch from Trinan was right there. The 2-1 pitch from Trinan was a hanging slider on the inner half. Take it out to left center field at Dodger Stadium. In that case, you did it last year during your bad season. You hit a home run to that same area. Grand slam right in front of you. But again, unpopular opinion, you go up 6-4, you're bringing in Luke Weaver. I'm still terrified of giving that game right back.
Yep. I don't know. My lineup suggestion would just be, and look, because you have to make changes at this point, regardless, you can't roll with the same. Jose Trevino over Austin Wells is not a change. If anything, it removes pop. And I know Austin Wells has been dreadful. It's been horrible to watch him step up to the plate. But like you said, he mitigates stealing opportunities, which, again, the Dodgers taking the extra 90 feet made the difference in the first 2 games of the series. So now it seems the Yankees are either relenting on that or Aaron Boone's expecting a massive turnaround from his offense. But at this point, just for the fuck of it, because you have to make changes, I think it should be Gleyber Torres, Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, Aaron Judge, Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe, Alex Verdugo, whoever else. Alex Verdugo moving up to 8. I mean, again, he's been better and is better than Austin Wells and Jose Trevino, so the catcher should just be batting 9th. I think you can actually be a little bit more interchangeable. Like, I'm not against moving Verdugo up to the 6th spot and putting Jazz in the 8th spot just to try to lengthen the lineup a little bit more, because what the Yankees have been doing. And look, we've been trying to dissect this. This is hard. We've been picking through things and being critical of this all year because, again, the lineup is not complete. After Giancarlo Stanton, this entire postseason series, you've had Anthony Rizzo, who is a threat to get on base, and that's it. He's adding no pop and he's adding no slug.
He's like injured Freddie Freeman, except for Freddie Freeman can hit one 480 feet, apparently.
Yeah. And then you have a bunch of guys with no homer or extra base hit threats. And I understand, like, yes, in theory they have it. Like Jazz Chisholm has it. Anthony Volpe has it. Alex Verdugo has had it. He has not had it in months, but, like, you can't bank on it now. Austin Wells had it, but his 2-month slump now is beyond comprehension, and there's no turning back now and figuring it out. But the reality of through these first 2 series essentially is you have been operating with a successful 3 out of your first 4 hitters, or 3 out of first 5 when Jazz and whoever else was batting cleanup for that, or Austin Wells was batting cleanup for a second, and then everybody else was ineffective. So maybe moving Judge to 5th takes a little bit of pressure off him. Maybe moving Verdugo behind Judge does something. Maybe taking a little bit of pressure off Jazz. I know he got a couple of hits and stole bases in that first game. Was it the first game or the second game? First game, right?
Jazz was kind of electric in the first game.
Jazz was heads up like that, and that's the stuff that they need to counteract this. But, like, again, I don't know what the solution is, but Aaron Boone needs to know what the solution is, and Aaron Boone needs to have a better finger on the pulse, and Aaron Boone can't keep trotting out essentially the same lineup with one minor change, right? Because at this point, moving Austin Wells out of the cleanup spot is not a major change. That should have happened 3 weeks ago. Moving Aaron Judge out of the 3-hole is not a major change. That's something that should have been explored maybe before even the World Series started. And I understand that this might not be a conversation if the Yankees took one of those games in LA, but then again, Aaron Boone did this to himself, and you make the wrong calls with the pitching. Another one of the big offenders in that game 1 was pinch running Jason Dominguez for Gleyber Torres in the 8th when you just didn't need to do that. And then
I'm sorry, in game 2, you're rallying in the 9th. Giancarlo Stanton is standing on second base for a very long time, begging to be pinch run for. Yeah. That run really matters, and Giancarlo Stanton is purposefully walking around the bases to preserve his legs, and they need to be preserved. You never take Stanton out unless you have to. You know when you have to? When you're rallying desperately in the 9th inning, and you're either going to tie the game or take the lead or never be heard from again. And Stanton never came out of that game. Rizzo got pinch run for before Stanton did.
Yeah. And then Oswaldo Cabrera, who I usually trust on defense, but has not played a whole lot of second base this year, has that ball go under his glove, and then that's essentially what sets the stage for that Dodgers extra innings comeback and walk-off grand slam. So, again, if there was one mistake here, and we were like, oh, you know what, one misstep, it happens. You can't have 3, and you definitely can't have the last one be putting in Nestor Cortez, who hasn't pitched in 35 days or 38 days or whatever it was, try to finish off the job against 3 of the Dodgers' best hitters in a do-or-die situation. So now it's on Aaron Boone to make drastic changes with the lineup, however he sees. But we know this is not going to happen. We know there will be no conversation with Aaron Judge to move him. We know there will be no conversation with anybody else to shake things up. I don't even know what the shakeups would look like. Again, like, this is me just throwing shit out of wall and trying to figure it out. But at this point, Aaron Judge can't be in the 3-hole. He's killing. How many times we talked about it last episode? How many times has Gleyber Torres and Juan Soto gotten on base throughout this postseason, and the Yankees have not scored in that first inning? And we've talked to Dodgers fans. They said, hey, if the Yankees manage to get out to an early lead in the first inning, Dodgers are in trouble. Aaron Judge has failed on that front. Like, the postseason numbers are at this point affecting his legacy and affecting the way that he will be viewed in Yankees lore. And it's upsetting because he shouldn't, but you're seeing a lot of bad discussion surrounding this. You're seeing fans go a little bit off their rocker with how they're maybe treating him or what they're saying about him. But I think the blunt reality, without getting too harsh, is that this is going to go down as one of the bigger Yankee failures in history, because the Yankees, I don't know, like, I mean,
without being too harsh,
but yeah, I mean, it's not like Aaron Judge, you suck, get out of here. Like, that's what I view as harsh. But you look at the history of the Yankees and the players who have succeeded here, and like, Don Mattingly exists as like the one MVP who like couldn't get it done. And you look back at those teams and you're like, oh, that was one of the worst stretches of Yankees baseball ever. Like, Don Mattingly can't carry a team. And then Don Mattingly was lights out in that 95 postseason, and the team blew it and got eliminated. And then he retired, and his career has been, obviously, I think that's affected the way he's been viewed in the Hall of Fame voting and stuff like that. But any other Yankees impact player who's been MVP caliber and whatnot was either a playoff performer or made the World Series or delivered in the postseason in some capacity. And Aaron Judge just simply is not. And I agree with some of the other stuff, like, yeah, give him a standing ovation today, make him feel better. But it's not like he's been booed this entire time. It's not like people haven't been encouraging and saying, hey, you know what? All right, it's the first couple games of the ALCS. We have some time. Like, Judge has at least 2-3 more games in this series to get together before the World Series. It's now been 5 games since that happened. And again, the results have gotten worse. And every clutch hit that he does have ends up somehow blowing up in the Yankees' face in the end. I don't know why that happens. I don't, you have the homer against the Rays in 2020. You have didn't he homer in one of the 22? No, not 2022 ALCS. That was dreadful. But
no, the one
2019 ALCS.
I was thinking about this the other day too. He hit the home run in the game that ultimately J-Happ blew. They had a 1-0 lead in game 2 of the CS.
Yeah.
Ottavino blew it too, but then J-Happ blew it. He had a big home run in game 5 of 2020, the empty stadium playoffs that nobody thinks about. And then, of course, he tried to rob Austin Meadows' game-tying home run, but banged his head on the inside of the wall at Petco Park because he didn't know how high the wall was. And then they ultimately got Mike Brosseau'd. A lot of memorable.
Mike Brosseau. Yeah.
I believe, didn't he also homer in the game 3 in Cleveland where they got walked off in 2022? Right? It was him.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
Bader
did.
And
yes,
Bader.
he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
typically a big Judge moment means a horrible loss during this era for whatever reason.
And look, I don't know why. And it's just the stakes of Yankees baseball, right? Like, there's a longstanding history here of success, especially from the face of the franchise and the best player on the team. And this Aaron Judge window has featured worse and worse performances from the collective, worse performances from him in the postseason. And like, again, the comparisons between, we were down 0-2 in the 96 World Series. Yeah, like, that was a different scenario. That was the beginning of a dynasty with a team that was hungry. This is the last legs of maybe what we can consider a championship window that got to this point because of the addition of the somehow overly necessary addition of Juan Soto in the offseason. The Yankees did that. Brian Cashman did that, and he got the Yankees exactly what they needed. But in theory, it shouldn't take, another top 3 hitter in baseball to put this roster over the top. And it shouldn't take a cameo from this trade acquisition to push this team to the World Series. So we have seen this team fall short plenty of times. We have seen this team not deliver upon expectations. We have seen this team choke time and time again against hated rivals, marquee matchups, whatever you want to call it. And them reaching the World Series in what feels like a last-ditch effort if Juan Soto doesn't re-sign is not the same as a 96 team that is built around like the perfect amount of homegrown stars and all-stars of years prior to whatever this is. This is a mishmash of we need the best players available to get to the World Series, and we hope we're going to do it. And we have barely any edge, and we have barely any clutch, and we have barely any depth, and we have barely any big-time players, and we don't have a manager that has feel for the game. And all of that has been proven in the first 2 games of this series. So that's why 96 is not the same as this, and it will never be. That's why the 2022 team was not the same as the 98 Yankees.
Interesting.
Remember that one?
I forgot that actually didn't end up being the case. Yeah. Hey, everyone, by the way, if you're going to the game, don't boo Aaron Judge.
No. There's no reason to boo Aaron Judge.
What are we doing?
Well, I mean, there is, but...
look, guess who knows that his legacy is on the line?
Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge, okay? So this has wide-ranging, large implications that his postseason performance and the way that you treat him that go beyond Game 3 of the World Series this year. Your goal, I believe, is to get to the World Series in future years as well, and then perhaps to win it. Booing the shit out of Aaron Judge does absolutely nothing to encourage a change in Aaron Judge. It's just a really dumb way to show that you're fed up. A team that ostensibly a week ago you would have been cheering, you would have been just happy to reach the World Series, and whatever happens. Now 2 days later, you've turned on him to the point that you want to boo your captain. And if he performs poorly today and eventually hears boos, he's going to say in the postgame, yeah, they were right to boo me. I wasn't good. He's going to take it, but it's going to sting, right? And at least do not boo in intros, you idiots. Save your vocalization for whatever occurs during the game. You want Juan Soto back, right? Don't you? Like, you do want Juan Soto back. He's not going to make his decision based on how many boos he hears from drunk losers. He's not going to base his decision based on, did the Yankees fans at Billy's cheer Shohei Ohtani's injury on TV in Game 2 or not? I'm not sure. That's not going to be the determining factor. It's going to be lots and lots of money. But when he thinks back on his time in the Bronx, do you want him to think about a close-knit team that reached the World Series and was propelled by their larger-than-life fan base and made it further than the Mets, by the way, the grimace Mets, the Hawk Tua Mets, the quirky, cute Mets, who are just a Juan Soto away from being this dominant force, but actually didn't make it as far as the team that Juan Soto is currently on? Do you want that to be the memory that Juan Soto takes away, that he advanced further than the Mets, the Yankees are in a better position and all money being equal, that he should come back here? Or do you want it to be, oh, shit, they all booed the captain in Game 3? Never mind. They're fickle. I don't want to be here. The comment section saying that I think the comment section is saying that we're idiots for saying that, we should just be freely booing the guys on the field fucking up. Yeah, okay. Again, good luck with that. Good luck with that life philosophy. Yeah. I'm not blaming the fans for anything. Fans haven't done anything. The New York Yankees on the field have lost the first 2 games of this series. But you know how you get them back on track? You know what no other fan base on planet Earth would do? Fervently boo the team coming home for Game 3 of the World Series. You know what a bad fan base would do? Boo tonight, pretending that the World Series is already over. That's how you make it over, by perpetuating that reality. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I am gonna. If you plan to go to the game and boo tonight, stay home. I don't care if you call me an idiot. Yeah. I actually really don't care, because I don't respect your opinion if that's your take.
Yeah, that's just. There's no you're spending thousands of dollars to go to a game and not enjoy yourself. Okay, I mean, I guess
I know how much it costs too. I know how much you paid for that. You're going to show up to the stadium and boo tonight. Okay, enjoy. Not saying you can never boo. Not saying you can't have a bad time. If they give you a reason to be upset tonight, vocalize it, and then don't buy season tickets for next year, and then don't go until they make changes. But you're paying $1,500 to go to the World Series to yell at your captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll probably turn things around.
Hey, here's a reminder: what you already know, you're not playing well.
You heard it from everybody all day. You heard it on sports radio. You heard it on TV. You heard it in the locker room. Your family probably texted you. You suck. But yeah, you gotta let him know.
Judge turns around. He's like, guys, do you have any idea I was playing this bad?
Yeah. Did anybody see my stats? Wait, nobody. You guys have been hiding my stats the whole time. I thought I was kicking ass. Really? It's not Make-A-Wish. He knows it's bad.
But I mean, look, outside of that, which again, we're not trying to perpetuate any negativity. There's
I'm
just
also,
the reality.
by the way, I'm not trying to say get up and do a fake standing ovation like the Trey Turner thing.
Yeah.
Like don't do a cornball move either, where it's like we believe in you. But if you're starting this game with a full throated boo and intros, I got some words for you.
Unless it's Aaron Hicks. We're not doing that.
Well, if Aaron Hicks throws out the first pitch, then yeah, you have every right to do it. But other than that,
look, we're not trying to perpetuate anything. There are the numbers are out there. The numbers are loud, and this is the reality. Aaron Judge is now below the Mendoza line. He's batting 199 in his postseason career, and it's not a small sample size anymore, which is why it's becoming a concern, which is why it's a larger talking point, and it's things that we understand. And is it Aaron Judge's fault that the Yankees are not up in the World Series? It's partially his fault, but I mean, again, this is a team sport. Don't give the Dodgers extra bases. Don't call on the wrong pitchers, and be better at situationally hitting. You can't go 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position as a team. Aaron Judge has had 4 failures in that scenario, but what about the other 8 failures? There's plenty of other people who have not stepped up when they needed to, and I understand the burden's on Aaron Judge, but he is not the sole reason this team is falling short. This team is falling short because they are not a tight, they are not a disciplined, and they are not an edgy baseball team. And that's something that we've been talking about for an entire year. And unless they change that or are able to flip the script or show us something different, it's not changing when you have 2 losses left before your season ends. Nonetheless, 55 games, batting 199. He has 15 homers and 31 RBIs, but like Adam and I just discussed, a lot of that production has come in losing efforts, whether, again, his fault or not. Seems like just a lot of bad luck coupled with a change. You could see the change in his approach, right? Because a lot of us are sitting there and we're saying, oh, we know how Yamamoto's going to handle him. Breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball, breaking ball. And Judge should be ready for that, or just knowing that he's not getting a pitch to hit in the first couple of offerings, and he should adjust. And instead it's swing over breaking ball, stare at fastball, or finally work the count and then look at perfect strikes down the middle and then back yourself into a corner yet again. So his approach is totally off, and you could see it with his swing too. He's swinging out of his shoes, and I can imagine what that's like. You need to fucking put a ball in play or send one over the fence to get your team back in the game, or to change all of the misfortune that's happened to that point. But Aaron Judge is at his best when he is just simply stroking it. He's simply stroking it, dude.
I think I needed that. He really is. Who among us isn't at their best when they're simply stroking?
No, effortless motion through the zone, swinging on top of fastballs, not trying to go too hard. That's when he is at his best. He's at his best when it's going through the motions and he's putting a swing path into the zone and he's staying on top of pitches that he expects to be coming. And now it looks like he's just completely lost and he's just trying to run into an absolute bomb. And Aaron Boone might have answers for it, but he's asked about it in the postgame. And he's like, yeah, it could be mechanical. It could be this. It could be that. And we're like, Aaron, just like, what is it? We know there are a million things it could be, but what are you seeing? Because a lot of these people who are watching seem to be in agreement that there is this one issue. And we've seen how many games since this has become an issue, and there's no change in approach. So whose fault is that? Is the coaching staff advising him correctly? Is Aaron Judge having a mental blockade and he's unable to get out of it? Like, I don't know what it is, but we got to get Judge back to simply stroking it.
Does he need the fans to remind him that he's been terrible? I guess maybe that's the last. Maybe he does need to actually hear some heckles. Again, that's just nobody else. Yankee fans are uniformly great. I think there's this national perception that a fan base is defined by its worst elements. All fan bases have incredible, devoted fans who live and die with every pitch, who deserve good things, except Red Sox fans. They don't. But there are plenty of Yankee fans who watch every game, eat, sleep, and breathe this team, and don't actively attempt to harm their team's morale, the most important part of every season. Now, revisionist history, I'm sure there were people booing and grumbling and angry in 96, going on the road for games 3 through 5, down 0-2 in that series. But we don't hear about it because the Yankees bucked up and won in front of a frenzied environment in Game 6. We need to make sure this is a frenzied environment for games 3 through 5 in a good way. Make adjustments, bump Aaron Judge down in the lineup, show you are willing to make changes, fight for this. And game 3 is another game that the Yankees should win on paper. I like that Clark Schmidt, aka David Cone Jr., Green David Cone, is getting the ball tonight. I think I can count on him for 5+ good innings. I don't know until I see it, but I believe in the stability. I believe in the bullpen arms they're going to call in after Clark Schmidt. Walker Buehler had a great start at Citi Field. It didn't last very long. Walker Buehler has rediscovered a little something in recent weeks. He at San Diego, not so much. Got ambushed by that lineup. It's a simple thing. What the Yankees need is to ambush Walker Buehler tonight and remove all doubt early and ride the wave of comfort through the end of this game. They can't be going up 2-0. They have to be going up 6-0. And they need to sort of just then massage it to the finish line, win 8-3. Like, that's what you have to do if you really want me to believe that you're back in this series. Not walk another tightrope, which is all they've been doing all postseason long. First pitches have just been announced for today's game and tomorrow's game. They're not announcing game 5 until they have to. Really wish they had to already, but that is not guaranteed. Tonight's, you want to get fired up? Derek Jeter throwing out the first pitch tonight. He's obviously there with the Fox crew. Not a hard get. We know why he's in the building. But you want to get fired up? Derek, it's just the Mets. Jeter. Derek, job's not finished. Jeter. Like, getting to the World Series is part of it. Winning the World Series is the part of it. He went 5-2 in World Series throughout his career. Lost a couple. Won another one in 2009 to put the feather in his cap. You're going to be talking to people in the dugout before the game. Spread your message, man, because this is not over. It isn't. Feels like it is.
No.
Objectively feels like it is.
Yeah.
But objectively is not.
If I had to bet, it's over. And that's just me talking.
I would also. I picked the Dodgers before the series as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
We both picked the Dodgers. And I think as of now, our analysis is being validated. I didn't want it to be validated because I wanted the team to tighten up. I wanted players to step up when they needed to. There should be a unifying rallying cry before this game with all of the criticism that this team has gotten from Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez on the Fox broadcast or on the Fox postgame. Those are two former Yankees. Those are two guys who have had very long careers, Hall of Fame careers, a lot of postseason runs. You know, Jeter might have had a lot more postseason success than Alex Rodriguez, but Alex Rodriguez was in the spotlight throughout his entire career from the second he was being recruited as a baseball player. And he knows, and even for all of his shortcomings during his playing career, I think there's a consensus that he understands what it takes to win. He understands the game of baseball. He understands when there is a need to make a change or if there's an unforgivable mistake made during a high stakes game. Both of those guys have pointed out exactly what fans have been troubled about with the Yankees, whether it was the need to make a drastic lineup change, whether it's reading the room wrong with a pitching change, whether it's putting the wrong guy up to bat in a certain situation, whether it's taking pressure off your young players. The Yankees have failed to respond just about in all of those scenarios at various points in the season, and now it's happening in the World Series. And those guys are talking about it, and those guys are champions, and those guys are made up the last successful Yankees team. So Yankees players should be watching those. Aaron Boone should be watching those post games, and there should be a lot taken from it and a lot applied from it moving forward, because the Yankees process up until this point was play good, solid to good baseball. You're going to be talented than your opponent and rely on your opponent to be worse than you or to give it up sooner than you will. And the Yankees have been afforded that luxury with what had happened in the DS, what had happened in the CS, and even dating back to the regular season with the Orioles choking their way out of contention and the rest of the AL slowly falling apart. The Astros shitting the bed against the Tigers in the wild card round, so on and so forth. This path is perfectly aligned for the Yankees to coast on their talent, to coast on their high payroll, and to coast on their privilege, essentially. And now they're in a situation where they can't do that because the Dodgers are the NL counterpart of the Yankees, which has been a discussion for 10 years now, but the Dodgers have had much more success. The difference is that the Dodgers have way more depth, way more players who are up to task, and a feel for the moment, whether they have failed spectacularly in previous years or not. This year's Dodgers team has dug themselves out from the depths. They have played tight games. They have blown opponents out. They have gotten blown out, and all the Yankees have done is run the same thing back over and over again. Minimal lineup changes, still playing tightrope games, giving opponents the exact blueprint they need to solve when a tight game comes. They played the same 10 games over and over again with how they use their starting pitchers, how they use the bullpen, what lineups they're putting out. And the Dave Roberts, for I guess as much as Dodgers fans don't like him for whatever reason, I guess because he's similar to Boone in terms of he's probably taken front office directives, but Dave Roberts has switched this lineup up. He has carefully given his pitchers the right amount of exposure to the spotlight, and that has given them a lot of runway to succeed in this postseason. Look at what they did to the Padres. They were down 2-1 to the Padres, and then they went on a 30 scoreless inning streak to win that series.
33, my
33.
God. Yeah.
And then they shut the Mets out in game 1 of the CS. So there's a lot different between these two teams, and a lot of it has to do with how they're handling the moment and who's in position to do what and what calls are being made to change things up in moments of despair and moments of urgency. And that's what's lacking right now. And Jose Trevino in for Austin Wells is not that. Not that.
You know what the worst part is? The Dodgers are actually shoving it up their sphincters so far. That's the worst part. The worst people on earth getting vindicated. I would really love to see Yankees win tonight in the Bronx. Walker Buehler, Clark Schmidt. Honestly, I mean, I think re-signing Juan Soto would change everything, but so would competing for the rest of this series in terms of future trajectory of this team. Because you saw what happened in 2022 when they got whomped and swept out of the ALCS by the Astros. They took 7 steps back in 2023 because they no longer believed in they brought Judge back, they added Carlos Rodon, and they just became a 500 team instantaneously. There were some injuries to blame, of course, but they're the Yankees. Their depth is supposed to be better than that. Their worst case scenario is supposed to be 88, 90, 92 wins. Maybe you miss the playoffs. Maybe you make the wild card round and you lose. The worst season that this team should ever have should be akin to the best season the Toronto Blue Jays have had over the last 5 years. But they were so much worse than that in 2023 after getting shellacked by a boot to the head in the ALCS. If they duck out of this World Series in 4, if the best fight they put up has already happened in the past and they come home and they lay double eggs, then I'm certainly not going to put a lot of faith in them moving forward. I'm going to advocate for a small reset. Jason Dominguez, you're a starter on opening day as long as you stay healthy. Caleb Durbin, come on up. Gleyber Torres, Alex Verdugo, Clay Holmes, get out of here. Don't get replaced by anybody. But put up some fight. You back up the players' big talk, then I'm interested. Anthony Rizzo, apparently, according to Max Goodman, told the LA Dodgers clubhouse guys, we'll see you back here for game 6. I love it. Win some games. Back it up. Perform on the field. You can say it. You can say it. Early runs tonight or I don't believe you.
Yep.
Ambush Walker Buehler or I don't believe you.
Yep. Its series is very much not over. We know that.
It's absolutely not over. In my head, it's absolutely not over. In my heart, it feels kind of over. Usually it's the opposite. Usually it's like rational up here, irrational in here. Here, it's like, obviously, 2-0 is not a death sentence. Neither is 3-1. When we were up 2-0 in Cleveland, we thought David Fry and Jean-Kenzie Noel swung that series. And then the Yankees held the fort, and it was kind of crazy to watch. 2-0 is nothing, especially 2 tight games. that were lost by marginal mistakes. Unfortunately, the Yankees have been making marginal mistakes all October long. And so I would be quicker to bet on them making more marginal mistakes than I would be to bet on them getting it all together and playing 4 great perfect games in a row and taking it back to LA and winning it on their turf.
Yeah. Bottom line, we don't want to be right. We don't. I don't want them to lose. I don't want them to not have a big enough series swinging game to actually bring this back to LA or to make it more interesting than it is now, the lowest common denominator. But again, there has not really been an instance since the beginning of June that has convinced us otherwise. And yeah, I think there is something to be said about them punching back in games 4 and 5 of the CS, and they deserved a lot of credit from that, but they took that momentum and they already gave it back. It's already gone. So now they have to find a new source of momentum against a team that's better, against a team that now has all the momentum in the world. And the only hope is that you have guys coming out swinging that haven't been swinging this entire postseason, or you hope that the Dodgers get too cocky. And those are two very unstable, intangible things that don't feel like they're going to come true, at least in the immediate short term. But it's possible. Anything's possible. 2-0, down 2-0. It's happened before. Not an unfamiliar situation. Just going to need more signs of life to dig out of this. Yankees, please. Something. That's it. Something. Just want something.
That's it. By the way, they're not moving Aaron Judge down. He's batting third again.
What's the lineup?
You can imagine it, but it's Judge is right there in the 3-hole.
That's Glaber, Soto, Judge,
Stanton, Jazz, Anthony Volpe comes up to 6, Rizzo 7, Trevino, Verdugo.
Okay. Well, that's okay. I mean, that's about the extent Aaron Boone could have gone to make changes without ruffling any feathers, which is exactly his managerial style.
Yep. And it scares me that he was like, hey, Aaron, how do you feel about maybe moving down? And Judge was like, do not do it. And he was like, hear you loud and clear. 10-4, good buddy. Like, maybe we'll see. Maybe it's another show of faith from Boone, like the Nestor Cortez move, and maybe it works. But either way, don't boo in the first inning. Don't be losers. Be winners. Win baseball games.
Yeah.
I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. I'm still there. I'll be up in the Bronx today if anybody has tickets. I will not pay $35,000, but I will pay less than that. Somebody offered me tickets on Twitter. They said, I actually have tickets. I can't DM you though. And I was like, I don't think I want to DM this person. They don't seem like a real human being. And when I went back an hour later, they were gone. So I think my instincts were correct. But if you have tickets, I'm willing to pay you if you can send me your birth certificate and social security number to prove that you are a human. I might pay you money. But until Thursday's show, 2:00 Eastern, you can find me there. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please like and subscribe to the podcast, like I mentioned earlier. This is our run. This is what we're here for. Got to keep everybody informed, keep everybody entertained. Please head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the written content is. Coming at you live. What do we got? Lineups, in-game coverage, rumors, first pitch national anthem details, all the stuff you want, all the stuff you need to know. You guys have been reading. We appreciate the support as always. It's Let's Go Yanks time. This is it. You got to empty the tank of the fandom. We're here to talk analysis and the reality of the situation. Fan-wise, it's all out on the table tonight. This is it. If you're not giving it your all, if you're at the game, if you're not giving it your all while you're creating content, if you're not giving it your all as you're spectating, you have failed. And that will be a manner in which you contributed to the Yankees' downfall. So if the Yankees go down 3-0 and you can confidently say as a fan, I did everything I could, as a viewer, as a supporter, as everything, then you should be able to sleep at night. If you come out with low energy and you're doubting this team, and you're booing in the stands, and you're being negative from the very jump, you failed, and you should be part of the disgrace as the offseason coverage drags on if they are to lose this. But it's fully let's go Yanks time, and Maybe you got to muster up some of that false confidence. Maybe you do, but guess what? Dodgers haven't come to the Bronx yet. Dodgers can be easily rattled. This is going to be a cold night. Going to be in New York after some traveling across the country. And it's for us. This is where it all lines up for the Yankees. Never been a better spot for them to respond forcefully and to get that energy back from the crowd. So none of that nervous energy in there tonight. Let's get it together. Let's get a Yanks win, and we'll have hopefully a pleasant conversation for you on Thursday, 2 p.m. It could flip the conversation on its head. That'd be fucking awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would really love if Thursday's podcast was a World Series off day and not a World Series parade planning day. But let's see what we can do. Huh? The commenter saying that we look nervous. I don't think so. I haven't peed my pants in at least a couple hours. We are going to watch tonight's game. We're going to watch tomorrow's game. Hopefully we're going to watch Wednesday's game. Feels so good to watch Wednesday's game. And we will see you on Thursday regardless of the result. But thank you for riding with us in the meantime.